All right, the story of the day is that the Boston Celtics had a press conference officially announcing that Ime Udoka is going to miss the entirety of the upcoming season while he's suspended. He's suspended for essentially conduct detrimental. You know, this is an in-house suspension, doesn't have to do with the NBA, and doesn't have to do with anything other than his reported affair with someone within the organization. Right? And it was first reported as consensual. Then later, of course, we have some details where there was a point in which it looks like it, at least he's assumed to have reached the point of harassment levels, right? Where he wanted to continue, she did not. It's been a crazy 36 hours in following the Celtics. Crazy. Here's Brad Stevens on the unfortunate Twitter speculation.
We have a lot of talented women in our organization, and I thought yesterday was really hard on them, and I think that nobody can control Twitter speculation, rampant bull. But I do think that we, as an organization, have a responsibility to make sure we're there to support them now, because a lot of people were dragged unfairly into that.
You know, I first, I respect Brad. I know him. I consider him a friend. He's an excellent human being, and I agree with what he's saying. Right? Like, it's just, as much as we as journalists, know the places we can go and can't go, Twitter allows people to go places they shouldn't go, and they do. Wild speculation, going and checking out media guides and, and then the commentary that comes with it. Part of this, though, I think you start to understand a little bit more as a man why more women haven't come forward, right? Because then it becomes victim shaming on some level. Now, when we first heard the story and it came out, it was like, well, it's a consensual relationship. Why is he facing some sort of severe suspension? That's odd. The more the story comes out, the more it makes at least a lot of sense. And you do wonder, hey, why didn't they just fire him? Apparently that was one of the three choices, right? We'll fire you, you can resign, or you can be suspended for a year. He chose to be suspended for a year. And I'll tell you, I think actually that's probably the bravest consequence that Ime Udoka could have taken, because if he doesn't return to those offices, boy, that's got to be really uncomfortable. There's no chance to start over, start fresh, start anew. Everyone knows what happened and who it happened within the confines of that office, and it made everybody look bad, and it throws this season very much up in the air. But maybe the most interesting part of the day is that the fact that the Celtics did not in any way commit to bringing Ime Udoka back at the end of this season. There was none of that. We're going to take a year and we'll figure it out. But I think the worst part about this entire story is how some have chastised the Celtics or reporters. Look, it's a delicate topic, but I'm not sure there's any other way in which it could have been handled. You find out about something, you investigate something, you go to the guy who's involved in it, you give him three possible punishments. Hey, pick one. And in the process of him deciding what he's going to do, the news leaks out. They hold a press conference less than 2 days later, and they explain as much as they can explain without shaming anybody, without uncovering any sort of details that don't need to be shared. This isn't about race. This isn't about anything other than what has changed in the workplace over the last 5 to 10 years. You pick a tech company, many of them have undergone changes because of it. Websites and heck, from the Today Show to the head of CBS, right? To the head of CBS, you name it. I mean, like, these are big, huge names in TV and radio, of course, in movie making. And there's different levels of it. And not every accusation is to the level of the what was the guy's name? The movie maker, super creepy movie maker dude, Jay Stu, who I'm thinking of. Harvey Weinstein. Not all of it raises to the Harvey Weinstein level or to the Matt Lauer level, but this has been a gigantic part of TV, of movies, of the business place, of the tech industry. And we have people who are on TV and on radio acting like they cannot believe this story was made public. Like, what are you talking about? Do I think people are entitled to their privacy? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's the same week where Adam Levine's DMs appeared on news shows throughout the country. You know? I mean, go and look at any organization, and I would say at least 80 to maybe 90% of them have had a change near the top, and this is the reason why. So for anyone to say that something is involved in regards to his race or his position, like, he's the head coach. He's the head coach. He's one of the most powerful men in the organization. So the first part is, the bylaw is you're not allowed to have a relationship with somebody in the building. Second law, he was in a relationship, I guess as she was too, right? But more than anything, he's in a position of power. And then, so it's a no-no. You just can't. Like, well, that's not fair. Then don't be a head coach. Somebody who is under, in any way, their job can be affected by yours. Like, it's not going to be able to happen. And then you factor in all the stuff we don't know. There isn't a human being alive who could tell me a better way for the Celtics or a different way for the Celtics to have handled this. If you suspend him, and you say he's suspended for a year, which has never happened before, and you say it's undisclosed violation of organizational policy, do you really think nobody's going to find out? And what happens when it leaks, when it's speculative, is it appears way worse oftentimes, or way different oftentimes, than it really is. In this particular case, they didn't really give us anything. They gave us just enough. And what they're telling you is usually a fraction of what they really know. And even what they really know doesn't always equate to all that really happened. Look, I'm not going to sit here and take a moral high ground over Ime Udoka. You know, he who has not sinned can cast the first stone. I won't cast the first stone. But he made a mistake, and I actually think that trying to stick it out and coach the Celtics again, which may or may not ever happen, I actually think that's the most meaningful thing of this whole deal. He wants to make it right. Because the easy thing for Ime Udoka to do would have been, I'll resign. I'll take some time off. You know, if anybody has any questions, I'll do a little personal rehab, and then I'll be a head coach somewhere next year. But that's not the path he chose. He chose the hardest path. And if you can imagine, though, if you choose that hard path, you go through whatever personal rehab you go through, you get ready, and then if the Celtics have a decent season, they may stick with Joe Mazzulla. It was not, he's going to take some time away and come back and it's his team. That was not said today. Not said at all.